Coach, just your opening thoughts on the game today.
Yeah, I thought it was a unbelievable college basketball game. Unfortunately, it didn't go our way, but I thought it was highly, highly competitive, and I've got a ton of respect for Coach Pujol, been a friend of mine for a long time. Obviously we're going to go back and watch the film, but we felt like in the moment that's a game that you make a few free throws, you get one stop, you don't turn the ball over, you're going home pretty happy today. So it's unfortunate, but it's something we just got to learn from. And I told the guys, I said, we're probably going to be in a situation similar to that on Tuesday, so let's not make some of the mistakes on Tuesday that we made tonight.
Killer instinct.
Yeah, I think it's more execution. I think part of it, yes. I mean, we talked a little bit in the locker room, and I told, Caleb did a lot of good things for us, but just using the example at the end of the game, I said, hey, man, that's a play. We've got you on Blackman in a spread situation. You want to drive that, not shoot a jump shot, and I think that's something that as he gets older, he understands things like that. Same thing we talked about, we're in a press break. We get in a little bit of trouble. You got 3 timeouts. If you think you're in trouble, call one. It looked to me like we were fine. Then all of a sudden we threw it up in the air. So, just learning things. Blackman's at the top of the key. We've got our hands down. You just can't do those things at the end of a game if you want to close those things out. But, I think it's we're learning to have that. I think obviously Jalen Warren's made some big plays for us at the end of games. I'm sure I'll go back on the film and wish we'd done about 25 things differently. But if you just take care of one of those things, then you close that deal out. And unfortunately, it was kind of a comedy of errors for us in that last minute.
Going to get Lipscomb or Stetson, depending how that finishes. Just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, obviously, they're both good teams in the league. I think outside of Liberty and probably North Florida to some extent, everybody else is very bunched up. I mean, you see that even today. We're a minute away from having 3 straight wins, and now we're upset. And North Alabama didn't think they're winning a few minutes ago, and now they feel great. So the league's very bunched up after those top 2. So I just told our guys, I said, hey, if we can win a game on Tuesday, now anything can happen. And that's every tournament that I've ever been a part of is you got to figure out a way to get that first win. You get that first win, and now you go from there.
What was that message in the locker room, just kind of get them to switch from this regular season mindset to now it's win or go home?
Well, we've talked about all year. There's 3 seasons. There's a non-conference season. There's a conference season. Then there's a tournament. And especially at this level, it's unfortunate, honestly, it's like this because we've suffered from this in the past. We've had some great years here in the past that because one game didn't go great, sometimes you look at it as a bad season, whereas this season hasn't gone like any of us would like it to consistently. If you happen to catch fire and win 3 games in March, and everybody thinks it's a great year. So the hard thing about this level is it really does come down to next week, and you're remembered based on what happens next week. And so I told our guys, I said, I'm really disappointed. I thought we could have had a 3-game winning streak going into the tournament, especially not having Cyrus, who's given us a huge lift. Until that last minute, I was really, really proud, thinking, man, they've really gutted this one out. So my message to them was just, hey, we're all disappointed. You should be disappointed. I hate losing probably as much or more than anyone in the locker room, but there's 2 ways to approach this, just like we talk about in life. When things don't go the way you want it to in life, you can hang your head and, woe is me and let it affect the next deal that you have, whatever that might be. Or you can say, you know what, that was really unfortunate, but why did we get there? And let's make sure that doesn't happen in the future. And so I just told him, I said, you got to move on from today, and everything's got to be about preparing to make sure that we win Tuesday.
The nail biters are there, and obviously you'd rather be on the other side of these, but do you like the way your team fights and the way that you guys are in these games? You can't quite close, but are you happy with what you've seen so far, minus that last little push?
Yeah, for sure. And if you look at it, I mean, we've had so many close games. Some of them we have closed. We closed the other night, not in the fashion that I'd like to. But you win a close one the other night, then you lose this when we win a close one at Jacksonville a week or so ago. So, we've won some of the close ones. But I think if we were able to cut down on some mistakes, if you do some things a little bit differently, then you're not in as many close ones. And that's where we've got to get to is, when we're getting the 7-8 point lead, now we've, to your point, got to be able to say, okay, let's close these guys out. And let's make 1 or 2 plays where, and I'll give you an example, the other night, there was a loose ball in the game where all we had to do was dive on the ball, and it changes the game from, I think, a 9-point game to 11-point game. We don't dive on it. They lay it in. Now all of a sudden they're right back in the game. And so we just have to continue to learn in those situations.
Go ahead. I was just say, just for me, last one was the senior class. What just as they close out their careers here, just how much they kind of meant to you?
Well, I think that's an interesting question with this group. You know, those three guys, obviously Tracy came here 1 year, and honestly, you know, to mention another senior, came here once Christian Carlisle went down for the year. And so that's why we brought Tracy here, to try to kind of fill in into a big role, losing your leading returning scorer and a guy that's been through a lot. And then you look at Kyle Hoffman and Ryan Rucant. I mean, they're guys that have been, I said that in the locker room, they've loved the program from day one. There's zero issues off the court. They're great students. I mean, both of those guys are guys that any way that I can help them from a professional standpoint, I'm going to be willing to help them. And Tracy's been in a tough situation because he came here relatively healthy, had a little bit of a knee surgery this summer. You know, surgery went fine, but it's led to some things with his knee that he's just not the same player he was a year ago. So he's really gutted it out for us from a taking charges standpoint, and he's one of our best defenders. He's one of our toughest guys, but it's hard for him to have the kind of success he's had in the past because he, you know, can't practice most days. He's dragging a leg. So I think it says a lot about him that every time the ball tips, I never have to worry about competitiveness. Now, you know, other things, but you never have to worry about how competitive Tracy Hector is. So I think those three, you know, are really good parts that we've had in the program, but I also think it speaks to that's where we are as a program, that we have no seniors except one guy that we brought in here on a 1-year deal. And that's kind of what I've tried to explain to people, you know, my family, friends, fans. You know, it's unfortunate. For years and years and years, we had the most veteran team in the league. And for the last 2 years, we've had one of the most inexperienced teams in the league. So that's something that we're just fighting an uphill battle that, you know, next year and going forward, we won't be returning 3 guys that played the following year. There'll be multiple returnees. So this senior day, I actually just saw Zach Johnson in the hallway, and, you know, he kind of smiled and laughed at me. He said, "You're close." He said, "You know, you just don't have the experience that you're used to having." And I said, "I know that." So, you know, as much as we care about those 3 guys, you know, there will be senior days in the near future that there's a lot of guys standing out there, which I think will lead to some different outcomes in games.
The last few games, elevated level of intensity, it seems like, staying in games close, as you said. It seems like Malik Hardy is a big part of that. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it's been a frustrating situation with him from a health standpoint, because you see tonight, I mean, he plays 36 minutes, 16 points, 5 rebounds. I thought he had more than that, 4 assists, 3 steals. I mean, he's a highly competitive guy that can really, you know, he averaged 17 a game, I believe, as a freshman in Division II. And you can say, oh, it's Division II, but 17 points as a freshman is a lot of points at any level. Unfortunately, you know, he's been extremely banged up throughout the year, even more so than Tracy at one point where, you know, he was shut down for almost 2 months. You know, so it's really been trying to get him back to not just healthy, but also in game shape, because he's another one that he may practice 2 days and now he's not able to practice. You know, one thing we do is individual instruction, which is a huge part of our program and development. He can't do that physically, because if you do individual instruction with him and go to practice, he won't play for 2 days. So it's been a tough deal with him, a little bit with Tracy, a little bit with Brian Thomas, in that he doesn't get the repetitions that you would normally get. So the guy that we thought we were getting, no fault of his own, what he did tonight is what I thought we were getting. And unfortunately, from a health standpoint, he just hasn't been able to sustain that.
Is it lower body for both of those guys? Is it the kind of thing that they may progress through, or may you be stuck with them in this position? Malik and Brian going forward.
You know, I know this will shock you. I know you've known me a long time. I'm not quite, I don't quite have my medical degree. I know I was close, but didn't quite get there. So to be honest with you, that'll be a question Nicole and I will talk at the end of the year and see. But yeah, there's some lower leg injuries and lower body injuries that are reoccurring deals. It's not something that, okay, you sit out for a little while and you're okay, or okay, let's scope it and we're okay. So that'll be stuff obviously we'll talk to at the end of the year. And my plan is always to do what's best for the kids.
What is the status of Cyrus? Is he going to be able to be played on?
Cyrus hopefully is in bed right now, drinking lots of fluids, on medications. He was diagnosed with the flu the other day, and so we're hoping that, 1, it does not spread to anybody else, and 2, that he's healthy enough to go on Tuesday, because I do think he makes a big difference in what we're doing.
Anything else?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all coming out.